Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room that we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Sarah, thank you so much. You brought us a great room and we did it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
In
Congratulations.
cupcake cat clock time.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry about that one. It was funny because up until that point, like I felt like you were really in sync with my brain, like
Yes,
puzzle-wise.
that was-
We were all doing the same, and then just as soon as we got to that puzzle, I was like, oh no.
That was
We've
exactly
derailed.
how I felt. I was going, why have we clearly diverged from each other so much
Yeah.
for this one? What's happened to us all for this? And there's nothing wrong with the puzzle at all. It was just clearly we saw certain things in our brains
Yeah,
split.
because like if you take a step back, right? The structure of the puzzle was, here is the patio with things in places. You don't know which one you want, don't worry about it. Here are a
Yeah.
bunch of sticks with colors. You don't know which one you're looking
Yeah.
for, don't worry about it. Then you find three things that begin with C, which is prompting you to go to C3, and that then goes, each of these colors has a number, and the pot that you just picked up, that has three colors, that therefore means three numbers.
Yep.
Go for it.
When
Believe
you
in
write
yourself.
it out in a game master's explanation, it is extremely logical.
The logical
It all
steps there.
follows on. But the things
Yeah.
that a mind will do when it sees 36 different colors in front of them.
Yeah. The longer you stare at a puzzle, the more you start seeing puzzles that don't exist. Like some of your puzzles that you said, I love the idea of time. That was brilliant. I wish I thought of that.
I've definitely been there. It's some of the most annoying things when that happens.
You know,
It's like, well,
partially.
I can't use that in the next room because the next one doesn't match any of this theming. But damn, that would have been good.
It was interesting because I think we run into a really, really similar thing that we've sort of have to start specifying, which is like trying to get across that a thing is big enough that you shouldn't look at it, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, there are bottles on a shelf. And it's like, okay, if there are 12 bottles, I want to look at all 12. So we have to be like, then there's 7 million bottles. Don't worry about it. There's too many. And I think this puzzle was right on the cusp
Yeah.
for us of like a size that some people would look at and be like, that's unsolvable. I'll come back later. But for us, we looked at it and it was just enough to be like, I could do all 12 of these.
Maybe
I
we
could
could
get
do
15
this.
colors. 15. I reckon I could do something with 15 separate colors. And it was like I think if the grid had been like obviously it wouldn't have made sense. But 100 by 100 grid and 7,000 little colors, you're like, great, we probably need to figure out which one we need. But it was just
Maybe
the size that was right in between.
As soon as it became grid-y,
I
that
wanted to
feels like
draw
a
on grid.
challenge.
In fact, we literally in our last room drew on a grid. Drew on like a 4x6 grid or something.
Yeah, that's true. That was a
And we
4x4
had to
grid that
draw
needed drawing.
And so
on it.
we were primed and in our head for the wrong type of
You're
puzzle.
right.
You
I
were in a
couldn't
grid mindset.
Oh, we were gridding it up.
I couldn't believe that the number of letters on the bench matched up. That you said
I
we
love
should
that straight
count
away.
it for 55 letters or words or something, and I went, well, it definitely wasn't 55 words. That's outrageous. But it was still long enough that it must have been like 200 letters. This is crazy.
50 something
Nope.
letters.
That really
It's the
took me by
perfect. It's
surprise.
that like that's a great thing because I remember like doing that puzzle was really fun because it was 8, 9, 14, 15, 19, 22, 26. These are letters of the alphabet. 30, 36, 43. These are not letters of the alphabet. And at a certain point, like, I think, again, that's an example of a number that was for us, like the way our brain interpreted it, like the perfect number. 55. We're not going to be counting letters of the alphabet. We're not going to be counting words in a thingy because 55 words, no one's going to give us a 55-word document. But letters in a thingy, 55 is the perfect amount.
That's pretty reasonable.
And then when I heard the phrase, I went, you did a great job at like, that was yellow, these are yellow. So we had the connection straight away from yellow to yellow. And then heard the phrase and I went, that sounds like a 60-letter phrase. And so
ridiculous.
it worked
but
out perfectly to check. Like it just felt like it was going to be achievable.
You must have felt
Yeah.
pretty
I
happy
really
with
liked it.
yourself also about the greenest bird feeder.
Oh, yes, that was, I'm assuming that was the point. That was
Yeah,
green because
yeah,
it
that was exactly
recycling.
it. Yeah.
That was really
Yeah.
lovely. Because as you said, it was like there's two green ones,
Mm.
which is the greenest, and it's like, and I thought to myself, it
We've
doesn't matter
already
which is the
used both of
greenest
those.
because we've ticked them both off. I went, wait, we've ticked them both off, and it doesn't matter what's the greenest? That doesn't make sense. We were told to look for the greenest. oh, I get it now. I really love that. It was a great sort of riddle.
Mhm.
I feel like often you don't get many riddles that are real kind of riddles or like have riddle-based ideas in escape rooms. Often riddles are ways to hide
No.
numbers or patterns, or it's a riddle that is actually a separate type of puzzle in riddle form.
That's because just a riddle can often be you get it immediately or you never ever get
but
it.
this was a really good implementation of what was basically like riddle-based logic
Yeah.
in an escape room, which I feel like you actually don't see a huge amount, and I quite liked it.
Thank you.
On that note, I felt pretty good as soon as I had seen, because the boa wrapping around salmon, I
Yes.
could not for the life of me figure out. I didn't even try writing that one down. I just went boa, like BOWER, but not Bower. Well, I don't know what that is. I hope I'll find out.
BOWYER.
And then I
is how you
glanced
pronounce
over
that.
at your notes, Billy, and I saw that you had written BOA.
Yeah, a
And
boa. Like it hugs.
Yeah, it made all
It
of
loves to
the
hug.
sense then.
And it hugs to kill.
And so that I then felt pretty happy with. As soon as I had seen that, I went, I want to do something with that hose. And that pot looks pretty salmon pink to me. So that was where I was.
And
for
I'd
that one. I
completely
felt good
forgotten
there.
that the hose had the black lines, and I was like, and then wait a minute, on my page I've written hose, black lines. This is it, that's a message.
That would also, I feel, be, out of all of them in here, the most fun one to do in a real physical escape room.
Oh,
Yes,
To be able
definitely.
to
Yeah,
wrap the
you want to
hose
do
around the
that.
pot and see it
Wrap it
lining
up and
up.
see the thing magically
That'd be
appearing in front
beautiful.
of you. Definitely. Yeah.
So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about your process for making this, and did you have a highlight one that you feel happiest with about how it's been going?
Yeah, so this room, like I said earlier, like I really love puzzles and I really want to play puzzly games with people. And like a lot of the people that I know haven't got a lot of experience of playing puzzly things. And having listened to many episodes of your podcast, I really wanted to do something like that, to do audio escape rooms that I could run with friends and family and colleagues and things like that. But because they didn't have any point of reference for escape rooms generally, let alone audio ones, that was kind of my motivation for creating this game, that it would be an introduction to what an audio escape room was and like how that works and the kind of unwritten rules that you have to I guess follow that if
Which
you're
is
puzzling people you
excellent,
just
like-
do anyway.
That is so important. I remember this from my very first escape room. Luckily, I was with family who had all done them before, but I didn't know what any of those rules were. And it is that sort of world where you can tell once you've done just a couple of them, you can often tell when you can dismiss an idea because that's just not what escape rooms do. There is a language to it, and it's intimidating when you don't know that language and you're starting out.
Yeah, it is, because then you're just walking into a room that's full of things and you go, well, how do I know which of these things I'm supposed to look at? Whereas like once
Exactly.
you've done a few, you go, oh, well, those things are coloured red, green, yellow and blue. So I'm going to need those later, even if you don't know what you're going to do with them now. Because
There's a
that's
stack
a
of
clue.
newspapers in the corner. I don't need to read the articles in it to find out what they're all about. Whoops.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So with this room, like the structure was a kind of like 3-act structure. So in your first act, you get the space out the front with the car, and there's only one thing to do in that space. You have a gate, you have some pots. There's nothing else. You can look at other things, but it's just flavor text basically. So to try and keep it as simple as possible to introduce you to the idea of you will find a puzzle and it will have something and it will tell you what it needs to solve it. In this case, it's a 4-digit code. And then there will be something else in the space that will give you the answer to what that is. And maybe you're going to need some kind of context for it. So in the case of the gate, you've got the flowers. So that's telling you to look at the flowers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then when you get through that first gate, then you're in Act 2, where you have puzzles that can be looked at in any order, but you can only really solve them in one order. Like if you'd have gone to the greenhouse first and found the tools in the truck, you wouldn't have known what to do with the trowel until you'd solved the bench puzzle. So that's kind of the more complex things are going on. And then Act 3 is when you get into the shed and you have to refer back to things that you found in an earlier section. So it's not necessarily all stuff that you've got with you now, it's stuff that you had from earlier. So that was the concept behind it, really, to try and kind of introduce as many different styles of hunting, finding, solving, I guess, puzzles, so that I could force the people I know to do more of these in the future.
Does that mean that
Well,
you have also written more of these? Did you get a group with this one and now you thought, oh, now I'm going to give you Act 2
I get 'em.
where it's big and different
I
and
have,
whatever? Like,
yeah, I have written a couple of other
Oh,
ones,
nice.
and they explore kind of different ideas. So like there's one that's very linear, so it's very much kind of follow through one to the other. There's not very much going around into different places. There's one which explores kind of the concept of outside knowledge, because I love trivia. I
Ooh.
love knowing stuff.
Lovely.
And I would love to have more of that, like in puzzles, because I think it's really cool when you can go, oh, I know a thing. This unuseful, normally fact that's in the back of my head is suddenly really important. And I'm going to solve a puzzle with it.
Yep.
But that's really tricky because obviously everybody has different levels of what they know and what they don't know. So you can't rely on that in a room. So
Yes.
yeah, I built a room which was around the idea of allowing people who know stuff to feel rewarded for knowing it, but also building mechanics within the room so that if you don't know those things, you can find them out in character within the game.
I do enjoy that. We did that one real escape room that we did in Canada. There was a thing where we ended up needing to match moons to their planets. And we certainly don't know all the moons, but we know some general patterns for them.
Yeah.
So
You
we
see
could speed through that one a
like
little
you
bit.
see Shakespearean names,
Yeah.
it's always Uranus?
Yes. Typically.
Yeah. So you
And
get some
if it sounds watery, it's probably Neptune,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously in the room there were ways to connect them. There were actually things that told you
Yeah.
these things. But yeah, it was fun being able to not even skip a puzzle to do this, just make it happen a little faster.
Yeah, because I think part of the reason why we do puzzles is because we like to feel smart, isn't it? We like to think, oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
I solved the thing. Yeah. So when you can build puzzles in such a way that make you feel smarter than just the puzzle, like I know stuff too.
Yeah,
I think that's really nice. As a
absolutely.
thing to be able to
I'm
give
with
your
you there.
players. Yeah.
And you understand that that puzzles and knowledge sound like they should go together and don't go together as often as they do, as often as they could. It's funny that.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. The process of solving puzzles is not the same as the process of knowing stuff. They are very different skill sets. Absolutely. Although
And it's
often they're closely related, like people who like one probably like knowing stuff.
typically, yeah.
Yeah.
The most interesting part, I would say, escape room people who are really good at escape rooms. I want to say, just on average, of the escape room people I know, they are likely to be trivia people. But the trivia people that I know are not much less likely to definitely be good at escape rooms.
It doesn't
Or
go the
even
other
to be
way.
Puzzle people.
Funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the sort of working something out, that process is not the same thing as remembering stuff, remembering facts.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
being able to have the recall to be able to just go boom, boom, boom. You know who I reckon more likely would be escape room people if you polled them across the board?
I'm curious.
Jeopardy people.
I was exactly going to say the same thing.
I think if you like, I think if
100%.
you want to go compete on Eggheads, there's no way of knowing whether you like puzzles.
Yep.
If you want to go compete on Jeopardy, you probably like puzzles.
Definitely, agree.
Because that's full of
Yeah.
twists and riddles and bits and bobs.
Yeah, you
and
got to be good at
games
your
and-
wordplay. There are some
Yeah,
people, I'm on the
wordplay.
Jeopardy subreddit, there are some people who just complain about the wordplay
That's what
ones. They're
Jeopardy's
just
for.
not into those categories at all, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah, but it's like that's part of what makes it the show that it is. It's got the little twists
Exactly.
and tricks and bits and bobs.
Mm.
Yeah, it is interesting. Now, one thing I've noted for this room is you've done what Danny does a lot as well.
Ooh.
But not all of our guest game masters would, and not a lot of designers would. Which is you've picked a very, very true to life, fairly mundane setting and problem. You locked your keys in your car. Better get them. Better get the spare. Like it's a very relatable. Was that always what you wanted to do, or when you were coming up with a design, were you also thinking like, I'll put a princess in a tower. You're inside the bowels of a whale and you have to build a little pepper mill to make him sneeze, like in Pinocchio. Like, did you have other thoughts, or were you always going to stick with such a kind of a normal setting? Like, do you like that type of thing? Obviously you do. You made one.
Yeah. So when I started coming up with ideas for it, I did start with a much broader canvas of things, but I quickly realized that if the purpose of this is to teach people the rules of escape rooms, then they don't also need to be trying to understand the rules of a fantasy setting or an otherworldly setting at the same time. Because if if they've also got to contend with, like, well, how does magic work here, or what kind of level of technology are we working at, or in this historical period, what is a reasonable version of this, then that's just going to complicate the process. Like, I want them to be able to just fill in all of those gaps of the world naturally without having to think about it, and then like just focus on the process of learning how to escape room, I guess, rather than having to worry about the world. And the setting for this actually is based on a true story, because a few years ago I did lock my car keys in the car whilst defrosting the car. Lovely. I mean, unfortunately I didn't have a puzzle hunt to follow to find the keys to get back into my house. I had to go and contact a neighbour, like knock on their door and use the telephone directory to find the car breakdown company to come and break into my car for me, which is equally challenging but less fun, I think, than wrapping hose ropes around pots in the garden. But yeah, so yes, I wanted it to be quite real world. I think for me personally, like when I'm solving puzzles set in a universe, I like it to make sense. I like it to be logical, and it's much easier to do that when the setting is relatable, rather than if you have to invent all of those rules for that environment, you've got to make sure that internal logic makes sense as well, so that you're not going, well, actually, why did we bother doing this puzzle, because we could have just used our magic spell to open the door.
Yes, exactly. You know? It's a terrifying balance to try to find. It's really hard.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely harder, and I have a lot of respect for people who can do that really well, and hold like the real rules and the fantasy world rules in their head at the same time when they're designing.
Has anything changed substantially about the room through the various plays and playtests that you've done for it?
Not substantially. There have been little tweaks. I had, in the very first version of the riddle puzzle, it wasn't the baby of the clan, it was Tim Cratchit of the clan, because he was Tiny Tim.
Ooh.
And although everybody who I played that with did get the reference, I was like, is that a bit too outside knowledge-y? And so I took it out. So it's just
I mean, part of the joy actually of this type of game, because you are there running it, anybody who doesn't get the reference, you can just say, oh, that's Tiny Tim, by the way. Right? Like, you never have to rely on can someone get it independently? They'd be like, if at any point they go, wait a minute, who the hell is Tim Cratchit? You'd be like, well, just jumping in to say that's Tiny Tim.
Yeah, I suppose for us, you don't know how much we know about it.
Would you have thought that was Tiny Tim? I don't think I would have.
I only know one reference to Cratchit, so I wouldn't have immediately gone, Tim Cratchit equals Tiny Tim. It might have taken me like 2 steps to make it happen, but I think as a team, we definitely would have said it reasonably fast.
I would have said,
I mean,
Tim
every
Cratchit,
group I played
he
with
wrote all the Discworld novels.
Every group I played with knew who he was, although one group did have a really long discussion about whether, because Tiny Tim uses a wooden crutch, whether that referred to the bird feeder with the wooden sticks in it. And I was like, no. So, yeah.
Do any of these birds have polio?
You stand in the corner and say, you bird, what day is it? Why, sir?
One of these bird feeders is blessing us, everyone.
It's the 32nd of April. 324. Put it into the lockbox.
Yeah, absolutely. So little things like that changed. And in some cases, like in the early versions, I had less pictures and gave people more pictures like each time we've done it, because I think, again, trying to imagine a world in your head is a skill in of itself. And so it's quite a balance to be providing images where it matters and then not giving too much information about a situation that it confuses the issue. Please see the final puzzle, which I now feel is too much information. I'm giving you that. Because then it would have been less confusing. Because if you can just say, well, there's colours, and you're not specific about them, then you can't get hung up on.
Yes, then we don't look. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it is
So I
an
think
interesting one. Like giving
possibly
us
that would be
that could
my-
have been a case where taking the pictures away would have changed the way we approach the puzzle.
But then I don't think it would have been as
Mm.
satisfying to just end up going, well, I don't know, we look at that pot's, we look at the lilac pot stick and then get told, oh, yes, cool, so it has these 3 colours on
True.
it.
It's an
Which is
interesting
exactly the
balance,
reason why
I
you've
find.
got the
But-
pictures, yeah, because it's more
Yeah.
interesting, I think, to have them.
Yeah,
Um,
being able to do the associations ourselves without it just being words is fun in itself. Like, just
Yeah.
having variety.
yes, yeah,
And
exactly.
look, in the end, we got it. It wasn't one that we
Exactly.
needed to be hinted towards.
No,
It's not like we
well-
broke down and said, "Give me lots of help."
No,
other than
we did
the
get
thing of what should I look at or what shouldn't I think about. But we had no point of like, cat is C3.
the hint that we got for figuring that all out at the end was that if only there was some way to narrow down which ones you want.
Mm.
True.
And again, great level of hinting. That clarified everything.
Thank you.
Like, that just busted it wide open without saying anything. So that was perfect.
Hinting is really hard because you don't want to give anything away. You want people to
Yeah.
have that moment of, yes, I got it. So yeah, trying to find that level. I was sitting here thinking, what am I going to say that's going to help you ignore the stuff that you need to ignore and just focus on the stuff that you need.
Mm.
So
It's definitely hard.
It was a really lovely room. I really enjoyed it. I think the character came across really nicely as well. I think that's a key that some people forget when they're doing puzzles and rooms like this. That what's key is to build a situation that is fun and interesting with people. And even though we've never met this ridiculous partner that we have,
I
they're
like them.
great. They seem like a cool person.
That's kind of not where I go with my NPCs typically.
Yeah, well, far too nice. But
yeah,
but it's really nice. I
nobody's
really like the
responsible for any
situation.
crimes in this situation.
Yeah, and I think it was a good expression of like the sort of stuff that works well in an escape room and an audio escape room as well. Like we found a lot of letters and notes and codes and things, but we knew who had written them and we knew that person, and we didn't just think like, well, here's a code out of nowhere, here's a puzzle that doesn't have a place. It was like, he's written another one, like there was a person behind the whole thing that felt real, and I liked it, and it leads to good engagement in the room, and I think it worked really well in this case.
I'm really glad
felt so
that you felt that way. Yeah, because like it's important to me that things feel logical, that they make sense, and that you can see where the puzzles come from. That it's not just
Yeah.
arbitrary puzzling, in a kind of solve this Sudoku because obviously that's how you open a door.
True. Yeah.
That it kind of made sense that you could see the person going back and leaving those notes. Like there's a couple of Easter eggs in the room. That just there for my entertainment, really. The first one
Oh.
being the key under the doormat.
Yeah, fair.
Because I just think it's funny to do that. The second is the picture of the boats is a key side because it's a key safe.
Ah,
So, yeah.
keys.
Oh.
And the third is that those numbers that unlock the key safe at the end, if you
Yeah.
type them into like an old-fashioned phone, they spell unlock. And my my headcanon for that is that your partner who doesn't want to have to do all of his own puzzles or their own puzzles if they're ever locked out of the house can just remember that they just need to put unlock into the keypad and it'll open for them.
Love it.
I love it. That's great. Why did you tell me that, David?
Yeah,
They did.
maybe
they kept
they
saying
did. And you
unlock
just
the
weren't
door.
listening.
Yeah, I don't listen to David.
I think that was pretty clear. They have a lot of hobbies, and we just zoned out entirely from them.
We're just
We
sat
should
in the
really
garden
take a
with
good hard
book
look
and
at
a cup of
ourselves.
tea.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
will say, we live in an apartment. I have never wanted a backyard because they seem like a lot of maintenance, just a lot of upkeep. But just sitting on a bench in a backyard sounded pretty sweet.
Yeah,
If I get a backyard, I kind of want a bench.
that's
I
what
love
you
it.
want a backyard for. It's just for sitting on a bench and listening to the birds and reading a book. And it's not for the gardening part. That's hard work.
No. That's what David does. Well, look, thank you so
I
much.
like that
for
he's got a
coming
name
and-
now.
Yeah, he's David. Mate, I'll give him a new name. Thank you so much for coming and running the room for us. That was really lovely. It was great fun to
That's
get
right.
through.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been listening
Yeah.
to the podcast for a few years now, and it is so lovely to be able to share this with you and with everybody else.
Yeah.
So thank you. I am very grateful.
It was
Aw.
lovely. talking about everybody else, thank you everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And thank you for everybody who helps support the show. Now, I will say, you can always support the show by telling someone about it, spreading the word, posting about it online, doing anything, trying to let people know that this show exists. It's a podcast that is not just like us interviewing someone or talking about a real crime that happened. And so a lot of people who would enjoy the show don't even know that this type of show exists. So the more you can help tell people and spread the word, the better. It's a huge way to help the show in a really meaningful, impactful way.
Puzzly stuff is becoming really mainstream lately, but people still don't know that
they don't even know to look for
this is a thing that can exist.
So they should be told. You can also help support the show on Patreon. Anybody who signs up at any level can appear as an NPC in one of Danny's rooms. You can also, there's bonus audio for all of our $5 donors. For every week, there's a whole new show. At least there's often extra audio on top of that as well, for crosswords and us solving mysteries, hearing the playtests of all the rooms that we do. There's bonus.
If your name is David, you got a freebie today.
Yeah, David, you snuck in right at the end. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's videos and in the future, possibly also another whole weird little show, but we're not fully sure on the timing of that. For the $10 donors, there's trivia. For $20 donors, there's a whole bunch of fun stuff. So thank you for everybody who supports us there. We don't put ads on the show. That's how we keep the show going. We make this because people donate because they like it and they think it should exist. So thank you, everyone who supports the show for us, and also on behalf of everybody who gets it for free. They get it for free because you support it. So thank you so much. There's a link to that below if you want to sign up. It's always very much appreciated. All right. Thank you again, Sarah, for running the room for us.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, and thank you, Danny, for playing along with me.
Thank you, too.
Even if you mocked my ability to order things that you ordered the same way I did.
Well, trow well.
You terrible. Bye, everybody.